Dr. Kanenje, one thing that we can't rule out that is a factor and a constantly developing story is the crisis in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. We had seen the SADC and joint SADC and EAC summit co-chaired by Emmerson Mnangagwa and President William Ruto respectively. Are they going into this election, or are they going or heading to Addis as a solid two-block voice, or has the DRC crisis broken the bond?
Good question.
I think that is a very important question, to ask. Of course, that may have some impact. However, I think to the extent that SADC is talking to EAC is recognition that SADC and Samidrek mission actually failed, many of which a lot of us had predicted. And so they're actually looking to the EAC, to provide some kind of leadership. And here's the reason why. When the East African Regional Force was in Eastern DRC, they led by Kenya, they made a lot of success without actually firing a single bullet. M23 had pulled in most of those towns. They were creating conditions were supposed to be conducive for political solution, for negotiations. Samidrek came in, chest thumping. Fighting on the side of President Tshisekedi against M23. That completely eliminated the possibility of actually having peace in Eastern DRC, in part because Samidrek do not understand Eastern DRC. The way, for instance, the East African contingent, which also speaks Swahili, by the way, like most people in Eastern DRC, which have a better understanding than the Samidrek. And so, to the extent that they may be actually looking at East Africa to provide some kind of direction, I think works in favor of the Kenyan candidate, as opposed to the other way around. Of course, Tshisekedi may not be happy with certain things, but part of it is attributed to some of the misperceptions among the leaderships, themselves. But I think South Africa, most of those countries in Southern Africa, are probably likely going to actually end up voting for this candidate. There was another point that was raised. It is true that when it comes to strategic, things, you don't exactly look at some of the cultural or religious things. Now, that is the ideal, what ought to be, but there is what is. Now, to the extent that North Africa, for instance, they are looking at providing a candidate who most likely is going to be a Muslim.
The deputy chairperson.
For deputy. Is really going to be a very, very hard case to actually have, and I'm not trying to be biased, to have two Muslim CEOs, running the
There's the cultural angle.
And so to have Yusuf and then have some Arab.
That's not allowed. Can't have that.
Exactly. And even for that factor alone, is going to make a lot of leaders actually say, you know what, we can't do it. It doesn't look good. But while it is not illegal.
It's a possibility.
Well, it's not illegal. It just does not look good, and that of course works in favor of Kenya.
Yes, I'll come